Hi Flosstube, this is Eleanor, and thank you for coming to my channel, Rhymes with Favorite. This is going to be video number 3, and I'm so glad that you came back or found me. We're going to talk a little bit about, well, a lot bit about cross stitching. I've got some haul. Shoot, I forgot to grab my haul. I have some haul. I have a lot of stitching because it's been a long time since July and I haven't had a chance to record a video, so you may see one of the reasons I haven't had a chance to record a video come strolling through at some point. I have a new cat, and we'll talk a little bit about plans, and I would like to talk about how I WIPGO, and I thought that would be a fun way to start the video today. So I set up a WIPGO board every month, and well, most months, and I do it to kind of help keep me motivated and keep me focused, and it's especially helpful when I have projects that I'm trying really hard to get done. But it's also good if I have a lot of things I want to start, or if I have a lot of things that I really want to work on. So I spin tiny decisions every month, or every day, excuse me. I have an alarm set on my phone so that I don't forget, and I draw up my WIPGO board at the beginning of the month. And this month is got to focus on Halloween, and you can see I got a couple of bingos already. Part of the way that I do this is that I tailor how many free squares I'm going to have kind of based on how much stitching time I think I'm going to have, and I thought I put my phone on silent. My stitching this month, I decided that I was just going to do weekdays, and I had a few weekdays that I knew I wanted to stitch something special on those particular days. So when I set up my tiny decisions wheel, I excluded those numbers from I excluded a few of these numbers from the numbered choices, and it worked out so that there were 21 weekdays that I wanted to choose from this month. So I have 5 free squares this month. It's never the same twice. And one of the things that I wanted to stitch this month specifically, was on the anniversary of the day that my grandmother passed, and I wanted to stitch something that I thought she would like. Originally I planned to stitch an owl, but because she was a big fan of owls, and I thought that that would be fun, and I wanted to start one of the owls from 100 Owls by Owl Forest Embroidery, but I wasn't feeling an owl that day. So instead I worked on this piece called Hell is Boring by Night Spirit Studios, and Grandma's a little saucy, and I thought she would like this piece. So this is actually going to be my first finish for the month. It's going to be a finish for me. There is a top border in the pattern, but I got a little bit frustrated stitching the bottom border, even though it's beautiful. It was a little bit, I had a lot of issues with it. I can't count. So I decided that I was just not going to stitch the top border because we should stitch what we enjoy, right? So that's what I did. So this is my first finish for October. And that was stitched specifically, I had to tie it all back, I forgot, on my grandmother's anniversary. I also wanted to stitch specifically something Halloween-y on the 13th, because I do, while most of the projects that I have listed on my WIPGO board this month are Halloween, I do have several days of the little fox that I'm working on. So I wanted to make sure that I was doing Halloween on the 13th. So that's how I WIPGO. And when I get a bingo or fill the whole card, I get myself a little treat at the Stitchy store, usually, but sometimes it's a snack. And if I miss a day during the day, so during that, if I miss a day during the week, I give myself the weekends to make it up, without being, quote, penalized and not getting my square done for the day. My goals are really loose. I tend to just put a project name in, and if I stitch on it that day and I'm satisfied with the amount of stitching I did, then I'm good to go. So it's very informal. Occasionally my friend Sarah stitches a WIPGO board with me. She sets her own up too. But our paths haven't been crossing in the crafty realm lately, so she hasn't been doing it, but she does cheer me on from the sidelines. She gets lots of pictures of things in progress. So that was originally supposed to be in my very first Flosstube, and it's really kind of been eating at me a little bit, because I do post occasionally. I will post some of my WIPGO information on Instagram. So if you follow me over on Instagram, I am Rhymes with Favorite on Instagram as well. So let's see. Since it's Halloween, and since Halloween is my favorite, and you might see I have a few things kind of stacked up back here, I am not at all prepared with some of these pattern names, because I was not planning to film this, but I decided that it had been way too long and I needed to just get anything up online, so I would do that. And I'm going to be relying a lot on my list of cross-stitch whips, and I may or may not be able to find what I'm looking for in the list. But I thought it would be fun to show you some previous finishes, and some of these go back to 2020, and the big one goes back a lot farther than that. So we're gonna have a good time. And again, I'm saying so a lot. I did that in my second video also. Let's start with this cat. This was I know who stitched it. Shoot, we'll come back to that. I stitched it on 18 count tea-dyed Ada, I know that, and I just finished it on an oval, and it is, yes, hello. Yes, there's my cat's tail. Okay, I checked. This is Mandy Cat in Witch's Hat, by Handblessings. I used DMC 902 and it's a monochrome, so I just stitched it up. And I started and finished this back in July of 2020. Yes, hello. This is Nyx. She showed up on my patio on Labor Day weekend and she demanded bacon. I was making bacon. She was in pretty rough shape. Oh, you're getting comfortable, huh? Okay, well, this is why all of my things have cat hair on them. I guess she's going to join us for the video. This will be very exciting. Say hello to Flosstube. Yes. Say hello to Flosstube. She's going to have a bath. Alright. This next piece is a piece from Little Bits of Halloween by the Drawn Thread. And this is a really fun chart. It's been out a long time. Probably everyone else in the whole world stitched this before I did. And I've only done two. I did this little hat. And I hope the lighting is okay. I have every light in my house on, basically, in an attempt to show you some decent stitching. Show you some stitching in a decent light. And this is the first one I did. It's got some specialty stitches in it. I'm happy with the way they came out. It was great for a maiden voyage. I finished it as a little pillow. I haven't even finished the back. It sits in a little tiered tray I have. And this week, no, I'll save that one. This is, I think this is something, Lily Au Clair de Lune. And this is, oh shoot, this is by a French designer, I think. She has lots and lots and lots of free patterns online. And this has got just a little bit of back stitch, mostly cross stitch, and I will link this pattern, or I will link the designer down below in the comments. I'm gonna butcher her name, and I stitched this back in 2019. I started it as a mania project, and I finished it just as a fat little pillow. It's fat. This is one of my very favorite things that I've ever finished. So, next up is probably my very favorite thing I have ever finished. And this is Witch by Subrosa. And I made the little broom. I made the cording, if you can see it. I put some rickrack on the edge with a fun stitch. I can't remember if it was Vonna Pfeiffer, the Twisted Stitcher, or Lori Holt at Bee In My Bonnet. I feel like one of them used or demonstrated that. And this piece I actually stitched on white linen, and then I tea-dyed it after I was done stitching. I took my life in my hands. So it's super fun, and I absolutely love it. Put that maybe where the cat won't reach it. Here is the piece de resistance. Told you I butcher everything French. This took me 12 years, give or take, to stitch. And it's not even actually FFO'd. I did have it FFO'd and the frame broke, so it's just kind of stuffed into the outside of the frame now. This came from I'm pretty sure it was a Better Homes and Gardens cross-stitch holiday magazine. I couldn't put my hands on it right now to tell you for sure. I believe the name of the pattern was Night Flight. And it has a bazillion blended threads. It's just stitched on 14 count black Aida. It's probably got cobwebs on it. Let's do a slow pass. This was back before I knew that I didn't want to stitch really complicated things, and it was part of my cross-stitch journey. So I basically see things I like and dive in. And at the time, when I started this in 1996, so I think the magazine probably came out in 1996 or 1995. I don't remember, but I think it had Christmas and Halloween projects in it, mostly. If anybody knows, I would love to have that information so that I could share it with folks. But it started the beginning of my full set of DMC, because I had to buy millions and millions and millions of colors in order to stitch it, and it was a lot of fun to stitch. And there are some stitches in here that were completed back probably in the Cape somewhere, that were completed by friends of mine who at the time were giving me a hard time about old lady crafts. And so I handed them my needle and thread and said, here you go, have a good time. And they did about 3 stitches and said, yep, I'm good. So it was fun. It makes for a great story. And I keep this up on my bookshelf pretty much all year long, because it is by far the largest piece I've ever done, both commitment-wise and size-wise. But I know compared to other things that some stitchers have done, it's really not that big, but for me it was a really big deal. So I'm very proud of it, and I really love it, and it makes me smile every time I look at it. So, going back to the drawn thread, you know what? I'm going to put that back there so everybody can see it still. I should put all these back here. Going back to the drawn thread pattern, this month I stitched another little bit of Halloween, and this one, and it's not ironed, I'm sorry, like I said, I wasn't planning to do this. So we have this little bit, and I thought I had finished it, and then I realized, oh, I forgot to put the border on. So the other night I started stitching the border. I probably stitched this border 3 times in total, because I kept either making counting mistakes or being off by thread, and so I would put it in and have to pull it out, and put it in and have to take it out, and I was having a hard time getting it centered on the pattern. I suspect that I probably had an oopsie in the pattern somewhere, so it made it very hard to count my threads and use the pattern to make sure that this number of stitches was what was charted. So it was very much a work in progress for a couple of evenings, but now it's done, and I can't wait to FFO it. Coincidentally, today my WIPGO pull was FFO a Halloween object, which might or might not happen. I may just put down doing this video as counting for my FFO. We'll see. This is stitched with the called for threads on a 32 count linen, I think it's called Scuppernong, but I'm not sure who the dyer is. It might have been a piece of Weeks that I had hanging around, I'm not sure. I feel like I bought, oh, I did. I bought this as a scrap, actually at a stitching store out near Syracuse that's closed now. But, so that's why I don't know what the actual fabric is. But I'm pretty sure it's, the color is called Scuppernong. I feel like that was labeled on it. Okay, so what are we gonna do next? Oh, I was watching Helen D, the East Coast Crafter, earlier this week, and she realized that it's October, and that means it's time to get serious about what we want to do for the rest of the month, the rest of the year. And I took that to heart. So I thought long and hard about what I really wanted to do, and I've got myself a little list here, and I would like to finish some gifts. I have 5 smalls that I'm either working on or planning to start, that are supposed to be Christmas gifts this year, so I want to work on those. I want to make a couple of project bags for some things that I have in the works. I want to FFO some ornaments that I stitched this year that I have not shown you yet, I don't think. Maybe I have, I don't remember. And I want to do a fun start for Flossmas. I think I'm going to try and do Flossmas. So, and if you don't know about Flossmas, Caroline at Off the Grid Needle Arts partners with usually a couple of designers to do fundraisers at Christmas time, and she sells a chart and sometimes a kit, I can't remember, but she also posts little snippet videos every day, and it's really fun. So it's a nice way to enjoy the Christmas season. Let me look at my notes here. Okay, that's everything. So I told you about my plans at the beginning. I might as well tell you about everything I've been stitching forever since this summer. July was solid, and I'm pretty sure I told you at the time I was unemployed. I got a job, so that's very exciting. It has been a big adjustment for me mentally to be working full-time again, though. So that has played a little bit into why I haven't filmed, filmed. I'm so old. I also acquired a kitty who needed a lot of attention initially. She's a total sweetheart. She's super nice. She's very sassy, but she had almost no fur, worms, fleas. She was skin and bones. She was starving. And about a week and a half after I started feeding her on a regular basis and got her to the vet and got her shots, she went into heat. So that was very exciting for a while. It was a long week. Nobody slept. And then once we got her fixed up a little bit, we got her spayed. So she has recovered wonderfully, and her fur is coming back. And in fact, anything that looks like it might have been light gray used to be bald. So she looks great. But she is very sassy. She's very opinionated. She really likes being outdoors. And we've gone through 4 collars so far. So, but she's a sweetheart. And we named her Nyx after the primordial goddess, the night, because she is black and she showed up in the dark, and she really likes nighttime, so she's cool. I'm gonna keep her. So let's move on to what I've actually been stitching when I haven't been filming. I've got a handful of, I dyed a little bit of fabric, and I can't remember if I showed these to you or not before, so I'm just going to show them to you. And these are going to be gifts, and if you happen to be someone who might get a gift from me, maybe look away, I don't know. But I think that the starts on these are small enough that it won't be giving anything away. So this is some blue, and it's kind of mottled, and I'm sure it's not going to show up on camera. But this is a blue. These are 3 pieces of a chart that, this is an orange that I dyed, and I just used Rit dye. And these are on 32 count Jovelin. And this is not very mottled, but it's a nice fun minty green. These are 3 patterns, 3 pieces of a pattern that I'm breaking up to do 3 ornaments. And it's from an online designer, and I will insert a picture of the chart here because I don't have it printed out. And I'm keeping it in my Star Wars project bag. Next up, I've got my travel piece, which has a fun story associated with it now. I hooked another stitcher on cross stitch, and she learned how to stitch by stitching this motif up here in the corner. So this is Quaker Postcard by Stone Street Stitchworks. It's a freebie on the website, and it's officially halfway done now. So everything over here is complete. Well, okay, I stretched the truth a little bit. There's a tiny bit of a house that goes in here that I haven't decided if I'm going to stitch in a different color or not. I'm stitching this in Mermaid Spin, and it is 1 strand on 16 count Aida, and it's terrible Aida. It's crunchy and it's awful, and I really hope I never run into it again. I also wound up using it on Hella's Mooring, and I mean, you can see it's so stiff, and this is, I mean, I soaked this before I used it, and I scrunched it, and I did all the things, and it's just terrible. But it's holding up well. So this is Quaker Postcard, and for the winter time I will probably start stitching something else as a travel piece, because this is really kind of springy and I want to keep the spring vibes. And it's in a flamingo project bag that I quilted for the aforementioned friend Sarah. We did a flamingo stitch along, just the 2 of us, and I made us matching project bags. So those are the things that were kind of holdovers from late August. And then we got into Sampler September, and I did a bunch of stuff in Sampler September, one of which was working on the Peacock by Cottage Garden Samplings. And this is an absolutely lovely pincushion. I really like peacocks. Well, I like the plumage of peacocks. Peacocks in and of themselves are usually kind of obnoxious, I think. I think they have a bad rap. But they make for wonderful stitching. And this I got when I went to the attic, the spring, and according to my handy dandy whip list, which somehow got resorted, I'm stitching this on 32 count Belfast vintage stormy clouds. 32 count. I'm stitching it 2 threads, 2 strands over 2, and I got a pretty good start on it. I was really happy with how far I got before I needed to put it away for a little while. And it is in a hedgehog project bag that I made, and it's just got sorry for the crinkling. It's just got just this nice brownish fabric inside. I do not know. The hedgehog fabric is pretty recent, and I'm stitching it with the called for DMCs with a couple of substitutions for of overdyed. And I subbed in, I subbed in Bejeweled, Midnight, yes, Bejeweled and Midnight. And neither of them is going to show up because it's dark out. But Bejeweled is this wonderful greeny blue, and Midnight is this wonderful deep sea blue. And they both have some really pretty, very subtle variegation in them. 32 minutes, not too shabby. Alright, next up in Sampler September was Cabin in the Woods by Flossabilities. And this is how far I got. Again, very happy with my progress. And this is on hand-dyed fabric. It is on 36 count Modena, and I'm stitching it one over 2. I had to think for a second. And that is a wonderful, wonderful pattern. It's fun to stitch. It comes together very quickly if you're able to sit down and focus, which is sometimes a luxury. And this one is in another project bag that I recently made, and it just had like the same nighttime in the forest vibe to me. So I also worked a little bit, not a lot bit, on Winter Rose Manor, which again, everyone in the world has already stitched, except me. And my progress this September was I filled in a lot of this medallion, and I got these trees put in. And I was really pleased with that. This is a wintry piece, Christmassy piece, and I wanted to focus a little bit on some of the bits that weren't so wintry, but still get some actual progress in. So I think I accomplished that. And this is just a little needle minder that I made out of a cover button with the same fabric that I used to make the project bag. And it just has white, oops, it just has white fabric inside. Oh, and this, in case you haven't seen it, is that upside down? It's upside down. This is Gervais Manor by Brenda Gervais with the needle and thread. Bear with me as I cram that back into a project bag. I did unzip things, but I still have to pull things out. Another Brenda Gervais that I started for Sampler September. I had a bunch of new starts in Sampler September. I started this one. I started the 3 Christmas ornaments. This is Indigo Lane. Again, another chart that has been around for a while, but it's very, very pretty. And it just reminds me of Colonial Williamsburg and some historical places I've been that I really, really like. And it also comes with a pattern for a little pincushion too. But this was a really nice start. And, oh, I forgot to tell you what I was stitching Winter Rose Manor on. I'll post it below. This is how far I got. And I think I did this in just 3 nights of stitching. I'm not positive, it might have been 4. It wasn't very many. It does go really pretty quickly. And I'm not 100% sure about my fence color. I'm not sure how it's going to show up. But it does show up in real life. And I am stitching this on. I really wish my thing hadn't resorted. Oh, this is another chunk of the 32 count Vintage Stormy Clouds. Vintage Stormy Clouds. So it's got this fun, really pretty but subtle gray streaking through it. And I'm stitching that with the called for threads, which are absolutely yummy. This was a wonderful, wonderful piece to transition from late summer into early fall with, because it was just, it had those warm hues, but it was kind of faded, but still really pretty. So it was a really nice transition from, love it, from summer into autumn. For someone who loves autumn as much as I do, it took me a little while to get into the vibe this year, and I think maybe it's because it's been oddly warm, like a lot of places. So next up, and these are in no particular order, I just tried to kind of go for September and then into October. So I think this is the last piece that I actually worked on in September. And this is Box. And it's by an online designer on Etsy. And I'm stitching it on some hand-dyed fabric that I dyed myself, and it's being stitched on, where in the world did it go? Oh, the designer is Happy Little Mouse on Etsy, and it's being stitched on 36 count Grit dyed Modena, and I'm stitching it 1/2, and it was really satisfying to get her face put in, because it was just so much nicer once I saw her little cozy little eyes and her nose in there. So she's super sweet. And the other night I decided to stop working on her body because one of the really, really pretty parts of this chart is the greenery that she's nestled in while she's all curled up. And I really wanted to get some of that greenery in. So I think this is in this is in a good place, and I'll probably once October wraps up, I will be putting most of these pieces away for at least a few months. So let's take a quick sip from a Halloween mug. And moving right along, on to Pumpkin Thieves by Madame Chantilly, which is being stitched on. I tell you this wrong every time because I think it's one thing and it's something different. I'm looking. You would think, I told you, I wasn't planning to do this. I told you, that sounds so bossy. I don't mean to be bossy with you. We're all here to have a good time, right? And I would just like to say, in case I forget at the end of the video, I'm really glad that you're watching me, and I'm really, really pleased that you're choosing to spend your time here on this channel and stick it out with me. I know there are a lot of different, lots and lots of different ways that you could be spending your time. So I'm really excited that you're watching this video, and I hope you will take a minute to like and subscribe and comment, or you can email me too. My email address is down below. And so, with that blatant self-promotion out of the way, why can I not find what I want? These were, I swear, this was sorted in the order that I started these, which would make, actually that would make this one pretty far back. Here we go. 32 count Haunted by Picture This Plus, which is a really, really nice linen. It's got some heft to it, but it's big. We've talked about this before. Look how big that is. The dirigible. Oh, I should show you the whole pattern so you can see how cute it is. I'm sorry. Crinkle, crinkle, crinkle. I'm going to lose my needle minder magnet if I'm not careful. Snap. This is Pumpkin Thieves. By Madame Chantilly. And I'm having a lot of fun stitching it now that I've got the whole dirigible outlined. And, oops, my various borders matched up. I was so excited I posted on Instagram. And last night I was stitching on this, and I have divided up the rest of the chart that I have left, because this is a lot of fill-in. Like, this is all green around here, and it's literally the size of my head. Like, no joke. It's the size of my head. So I have divided up the chart into roughly 60 chunks, with give or take 100 stitches in each chunk. And that way I can alternate one chunk filling in the dirigible and one chunk doing something fun like a pumpkin. And it works out. I have about 60 left, which is about 30 in the dirigible and 30 in the rest of the chart. And so that means, I suppose technically that means that I have about 60 days, well, 58 now that I've done a few days left of stitching on this. And I'm not usually a big one for stats. I don't stitch a lot of things on Pattern Keeper. Oh, I forgot. I am stitching the fox and the cabin in the woods in Pattern Keeper. And I don't have the stats handy for that. But I did forget to show you the project bag for the fox. And so, stats. I don't really keep a lot of stats. I just keep track of when I started a piece and when I ended a piece. So, I hope that you'll, if you're a stat stitcher, I hope that you'll forgive me. And still stick around because I still have a couple more fun things to show you. This is another new start in September, and it was kind of a twofer because I really wanted to stitch some Halloween, but it was also a bit of a sampler. And this is Boo Spook Haunt by Hello from Liz Matthews. It's really pretty, and I got a chunk. I got a chunk in there. Oh, this blue is not showing up very well because my lighting is awful. But I got a nice little start on that, and I have a couple days left of Boo Spook Haunt, and it's this blue flower and a little bit of this that I got stitched. I have a couple days left on this on my WIPGO board, and I will probably not stitch. I probably won't stitch all of the words. I might stitch one set of Boo Spook Haunt. I'm not sure. I'm not a big fan of stitching words. They're wonderful. I talk all the time. I would talk to a telephone pole if I thought it would answer me, but I just don't like stitching them that much, so it's very unusual for me to actually stitch words. Unless it's kind of the entire purpose of the piece. And finally, I think this is going to round out what I've been working on. Oh, and I'm stitching Boo Spook Haunt on, not that it matters because you can't see because the lighting's terrible. I'm stitching it on please, hold please for that information. This is so frustrating. It seems like every time I look at it, it's resorted. Here we go. Boo Spook Haunt, Liz Matthews, 36 count Atomic Ranch Storm. And that's a linen. And I'm stitching it with the called for DMCs with just a couple of subs because I didn't have or couldn't find the called for, and I had something that was very, very similar. So that's what I used. And before this goes away, next up is Assembly Required by Ink Circles, which I am stitching on 28 count even weave. Picture this plus prank. And this is Assembly Required. And it is wonderful for a seasonal stitcher. So, I am stitching this with 3 different colors of floss, actually. Although one of them, variegation, is very similar to parts of the third. This is where I've gotten so far. This is, again, super fun and satisfying. It's easy to stitch 1 or 2 bones at a time and feel like you actually accomplished something. When I started this, I couldn't decide which of these threads I was going to use. And so I stitched a little bit of the pattern with each one. I stitched the skull with purple toile by Classic Colorworks. Then I stitched the ribs with flax by Gentle Art. And then I stitched kind of this part with wood smoke, also by Gentle Art. And I originally thought, well, I'll probably just stick with either flax or wood smoke. But as I got a little bit further into it, I decided I really liked the various, the shading of using all three. And bones, particularly bones that may be in the dirt, are not all the same. They're not a wonderful white color. So I decided to stick with it and use all three. So the purple toile is this really, really pretty cream color that has just really faint purple smudges in it. And it looks really fun on this orange fabric. So I wanted this to be really Halloween. So it is. Oh, and I still have, in my bone, I still have to finish crossing my legs. And I do find, yes, using overdyed, sometimes if it makes sense for the way my floss travels, I will stitch just one leg, and I can't remember if that's English or Danish, and then go back and cross them. And I still like the variegation that I get that way. It's sometimes a little bit more subtle than if you did an entire X with the same, stitch one leg then the next, stitch one leg then the next. But I find that the variegation is in a project like this, it absolutely suits my aesthetic. So I'm good stitching it that way. And that wraps up everything I've been working on. I know that I had a couple more finishes, but I have tucked them into my project rule, and I'm pretty sure I posted them on Instagram. And one of them was a very summery ladybug piece, and then so that brings us to haul. But before I get to haul, I don't know why I set this over on the side. I know why I set it on the side, because I have no idea what this pattern is. I can't remember where I found it. I can't remember who the designer is. It is stitched on linen, white linen, I know that, and I stitched the cobwebs with probably a toile, something shimmery. I think it'll catch the light a little bit. And when I finished it, I just I took pins, little tiny pins, and I took little tiny seed beads, and I just pinned some black ribbon around the edge. I don't know if you can see that. And then when I made my bow, I made a little bit longer pin to kind of stick in the corner. And this has some cute, again, I didn't actually finish the back. Got some very cute mystic looking cat fabric on the back. And I don't know if this was stitched called for or if I subbed anything. I do know it went pretty quickly. I remember that. And if I'm able to find it in my WIP list of completed things, I will share the details. Or if you know what they are, you can let me know too. You can share it. It looks like I did some of these, so the hat kind of has a little bit of striping in it, and it looks like I did some of them with one strand and some of them with two to get that kind of alternating situation. And I really hope it shows up on camera. And again, this just sits in, I have a little tiered tray kind of over in the corner. I did splurge and invest in an actual stand for, which I realize I've had crooked the entire video. New floss tubers, man. I got a stand for my phone so that I could record things a little differently. So maybe at some point I will set it up kind of in the corner where I have a little bit more of my stitching stuff. But that leaves us with haul. Oh, 56 minutes. I'm doing pretty well, and I might even be able to edit a few seconds of this out if I'm magical. I was able to get down to my local stitchy store for the Stitcher Soul in the Capital Region in upstate New York, if you happen to be there. And they were having a trunk show from Dames of the Needle. And so I was able to pick up a bunch of little rickrack and ribbon for finishing some pieces that I've got in the works. So I've got some dark blue ribbon, and this is all crinkly ribbon. I've got some Hot Santa ribbon. I've got some rickrack and a little more crinkly ribbon, and this is called Ginger Nana. I've got Egg Hunt rickrack and Honey Whiskey crinkle ribbon. And I also bought, I've got some Sizzle pom-poms from Lady Dot Creates, which is going to be a lot of fun. I've got a particular FFO for that in mind. And I also bought a ton, not a ton, I bought a whole bunch of floss for a project that I've got in the works. And I can't wait to tell you more about it. But right now, it's just a project that's in the works. I'm not organized enough to really get into it. But some of these colors are just absolutely divine. And I'm so excited. Let's see. I think that's it. So, thank you for bearing with me. My hair was not too completely out of control. I have some earrings in. It's very fancy tonight. They're little teeny witches. You got to meet Nixie. See a whole pile of stitching. It's literally a pile of stitching in front of me now. I utilized some notes. Cool. I think we can wrap this up. So, thank you again for joining me. I'm Eleanor, Rhymes with Favorite, here. Like, subscribe, leave me a comment. I would love to hear from you. And thanks again for spending your time with me. I hope it was a fun hour and you saw some stitching that you enjoy. So, thanks, and I really hope I will be back soon. So, be well. Thank you.